Hey there everyone, welcome to the video. Today we're going to be doing a 1 month review for the Samsung Galaxy Book 2 Pro 360 and go over why I believe that this laptop is a contender for Laptop of the Year for 2022. So stick around and let's see how everything plays out. So right off the bat, I want to acknowledge the fact that just over 1 month ago, I made my first YouTube video based on the unboxing, as you can see here, for the Samsung Galaxy Book 2 Pro 360. This is my wife's laptop, and it has been a powerhouse this past month. I'm going to go ahead and kind of break the review for this down into some kind of more bite-sized chunks. I'm going to do my best to get some thumbnails, notes put down in the section below, so you can see kind of what times if you're just here to look at a specific point of the video and of the review. The main things we're going to go over is we're going to look at the performance, the build quality, the display, the versatility, and how well the Galaxy Book 2 Pro 360 fits into the ever-growing Samsung ecosystem. So the number one competitor for this laptop in its segment is probably the MacBook Air. The MacBook Air comes in right around that $1,000 price point. You can bring it up to be a little bit more expensive. The 13-inch version of this is kind of right down there around that same price mark. This one, like I said, with the decked out up to the full terabyte SSD, as well as the 15.6 screen. It is the Pro 360, so it has the full versatility. And you can see, even on the, I have a slick tablecloth, so there's nothing to grab onto here. But still, with one hand, you can lift it up. It's nice and strong, can pick up no issue. Flip it around. A MacBook Air cannot do that. A MacBook Pro cannot do that. Because this is a 2-in-1 laptop. So right there kind of gives some key features to this. MacBooks obviously run Mac OS. This does run Windows 11 on it. So depending on kind of what you're doing, there are some pros and cons there. Windows tends to be a little bit more universal. So that's kind of a plus there. And as far as for students go, this thing is going to do anything that a student's going to be able to do. This thing's going to be able to do anything a teacher's going to need to be able to do. If you're already in the Apple environment, there are some pros to staying with that. But considering the fact that the MacBook Air has been out for several generations now, I'd say this fairly handily beats it. The MacBook Pro obviously is the next step up and has more performance than the Galaxy Book 2 does, but the Galaxy Book 2 has a lot more versatility, is a lot more portable. This thing is thinner and lighter than the MacBook Air is, so it's definitely going to be lighter than the MacBook Pro is. So if you're trying to use this thing on the go, that's definitely a couple of key features there. So yeah, I think until the next generation of MacBook Air comes out, that the Samsung right now is the leader in the kind of best bang for your buck laptop out there, as well as the most versatile and all around the most fun laptop. I'd still say that the MacBook Pro with the M1 Max chip is the most powerful and best for performance, but you can buy 2.5 of these for the same price as that laptop. As far as gaming goes, you can do some basic gaming on here. You can do Minecraft. You can actually get GTA 5 to load on here through Steam. It's a little slow, but it is possible. If you're playing single player, it's a little bit better when they're trying to load kind of the full expansive world. It does get a little slow. And so, as far as gaming laptops go, at this point, I think that Asus still probably has the kind of head spot in the gaming category with their Strixus RGB or ROG line, the Zephyrus, and that's kind of what they're designed to do. But if you're not doing a lot of hardcore gaming, you don't need super high-end performance, highly recommend this. So we're going to go ahead now and start breaking this thing down into categories, and we'll kind of see here in a second. Okay, so first thing we're going to hit off with is the build quality on this. One of the main concerns that I had with the last gen Galaxy Book was the build quality. It was, quite frankly, a fairly flimsy laptop. It was Samsung's first foray into the laptop market, and they kind of missed the note on some things. That thing was flimsy enough that if you picked it up like this, you could actually squeeze in and you could press the trackpad from the bottom side, and you could actually click and do stuff because it just wasn't a sturdy, robust enough case. They've addressed that with this generation and actually made it more compact and made it super sturdy. The only laptop that I've held that actually feels sturdier than this are the Macs. The MacBook Air and the MacBook Pro both feel just a little bit sturdier, but not by much, and they're significantly heavier. And then when we open up the screen in here, you can see the fact that this has, microscopic almost bezels around it, which bring the form factor in. And with this being a 15.6-inch laptop with no bezels, means that it fits the form factor of a lot of 13-inch laptops. And even the screen up here is super thin. And I mean, I have to put a good amount of force in to try and flex that. I'm not going to press too hard because I'm not going to break it. But yeah, this thing is built sturdy. The hinge here, which is going to be your weak point, I could probably stand here and do this for weeks, and I don't think this thing is going to even give a bit. So yeah, absolutely impressed with the build quality on this. So we'll go ahead now, jump into the next part, and take a look at the performance. Okay, so as far as performance goes on this thing, as you guys may have seen in one of my real world tests where I completely pushed this thing further than I should have, I ran 2 external monitors off of this thing, one 32-inch screen running as an extension, one 75-inch TV running in mirror mode off of this thing, and essentially was running 16 YouTube videos maxed out at max resolution, and this thing handled it. I did get a little bit of lag. The only time that I got lag off of it, though, was when the fans were initially getting ready to kick on. The fans have only kicked on twice in the past month of my wife or I running this thing. She runs in just kind of day-to-day life. I ran this thing more for testing, and my tests have got the fans to kick in. Even when the fans kick in, they almost have what I'm guessing is 2 stages. I haven't been able to really verify that, but it seems like they will kick on, and then there's a higher level that they'll kick up to if they have to. When I was running 16 streams of 4K video on it, I did get the higher end fan to kick on, but it kept playing it. But then the impressive part was not only was it playing it, but because I couldn't start them simultaneously, it was actually then able to load and keep the next ones going. The little bit of lag spike that I did get was before that first fan level kicked in, when I was playing all the videos and then had it on the extended and the mirrored screen. Little lag hit, and then once that fan kicked on, so I'm guessing it's a thermal throttling that it was doing. As soon as that fan kicked on, the CPU temp probably dropped down and never had lag issue again. So I'm guessing that is a safety feature built in, which is nice to know. But aside from that, this thing has never lagged. So one thing that I did want to put in here real quick, because I had a feeling that a lot of you may end up asking about this, is that even when the initial stage fan kicked on, it was very quiet, and once it revved up to kind of that higher second stage, it was still very reasonable for volume. It was way quieter than either my Xbox or my PS5 are. The keyboard on this thing is also really nice. It is a little bit of an adjustment to get used to because there's not a whole lot of travel to the keys. There just can't be with how thin this laptop is. But once you get used to it, the keyboard works really, really well, and the backlighting works great. It's not too bright where it's overbearing at night, but still allows you to see all the keys. It doesn't quite have the processing power of like the M1 Max in the MacBook Pro, but that's a $3,500 laptop to a $3,800 laptop, where this thing was $1,550. So for $2,000 savings, this thing's amazing. This thing will outperform the MacBook Air most days of the week. Yes, I acknowledge the fact that they have an M2 variant that's supposed to be coming out this year, but that hasn't hit yet. This thing will run games. Minecraft runs no problem. You can run 18 chunks and play with a bunch of friends, and everything runs fine. So kind of take that for what you will. As long as you're willing to maybe drop the resolution a little bit, you're going to be a lot better. One other thing that did help with it, which is kind of a more of an internet side, but this thing doesn't have Ethernet port in, is that once I put the adapter in, you can get a Ethernet to USB-C adapter to plug into this thing. You go in and then run wired settings. It will run those AAA games a little bit smoother, which is definitely a plus, and something that I definitely recommend. And if you're wanting to use this thing to play AAA games and play on another monitor, you can also get a USB-C or a Thunderbolt to HDMI cable, so that you can plug this thing in instead of trying to wirelessly kind of Bluetooth sync it and screen mirror, just to take some of the CPU demand off of it and off the Intel graphics. So for a $1,500 laptop, this thing's amazing. You can get it cheaper than that. I don't know if I personally would, but if you're looking at a 13-inch instead, obviously that's going to save several $100s. One of the performance issues, that probably the biggest issue that I've had with this thing, which Samsung has addressed since ordering it, was in their initial reviews. They kind of advertised the fact that it was going to be a 5G compatible laptop. These initial runs were not 5G compatible. These are all wireless. If you go on their website now, it says wireless, where before it didn't. And it, in the description, oh yeah, you can do 5G. They don't come stock 5G. If you want to go 5G, you're going to have to wait till, I believe, June or July. They're going to start rolling those out. But these things do pair really well with the S22 Ultra. And one of the kind of weird performance things that I found, and I don't know if it is an ecosystem kind of buff that Samsung has, or if it's a knock against my iPhone, but the wireless hotspotting seems to pair better with my wife's S22 Ultra than it does with my iPhone. We have the same carrier, we have unlimited data, we have all that stuff. So I don't know exactly what causes that. So we're going to go ahead and kind of open this thing up a bit and take a look at the display, go over the resolution, go over some of the features that has, and then we'll keep kind of plugging along. So we'll see you back here in a second. Okay, so there we go. We can get this thing booting up here. You can kind of see the display on there. This thing does have a really nice display. It is a 16 by 9, 1920 by 1080 display. But this thing will give Retina display a run for its money. Unfortunately, I can't tell from this side just how much glare may be coming off. But if you can see anything on this, it's pretty amazing. I have 400 watts of light bulbs kind of shining at this thing right now, and the screen is absolutely amazing. I did have to go through with it right when it kind of came out of the box and tweak a lot of the performance numbers in this thing. It does come optimized for battery life. Samsung advertises their 20 to 21 hours of battery life with this thing, but that's with it set with the performance totally tanked out. I had to go in, optimize the brightness, optimize contrast, enable HDR, and go through all that stuff to get the resolution to pop. Once I did those things, this thing became absolutely beautiful. In those lower settings, it still looks great. Don't get me wrong. As you may have seen in the earlier videos, I run the Samsung HDR videos for testing on this thing fairly regularly, and those HDR videos and photos absolutely pop. Running 4K video on here, even though this isn't a 4K display, this thing will just show those videos absolutely brilliantly, and we absolutely love the display on this thing. It is a touchscreen display, so it has nothing. So, you can get it to do different things. Obviously, I don't want to, show too much stuff, but you can see I can move stuff around kind of on here. The touchscreen feels great. We can flip it around and use this thing in tablet mode. So once you go ahead and swap this thing over into tablet mode, you then essentially have a 15.6-inch tablet in comparison to the iPad Pro, which at its largest size is 12.9 inches, and then you are decreasing in resolution a little bit, where the iPad runs Retina, which is 2732 by 2048. The Galaxy Book 2 runs 1920 by 1080, but it is still an absolutely beautiful display, and the increased screen size allows you to do a lot more than you may be able to do on just a regular iPad. One thing that I'm guessing might change in the next gen is that this thing does have the classic 16:9 ratio. A lot of the new laptops are moving into the 16:10, but with this thing being kind of as small and compact and portable as it is, I can see why they stuck with the 16:9. But, kind of right here along the bottom of the screen, there is still a little bit of bezel left down there. My guess, just a guess, is that in the next generation that they'll improve the technology some. Either this display will either go to a more 3K to maybe even 4K resolution, or even if they stick with the 1920 by 1080, they will get the 16:10. They'll remove this bezel, bring the screen all the way down, and kind of be more comparable and competitive with some of those other laptops out there. So I wanted to go through and put something in here real quick, talking about how beautiful this screen is in dark environments. I know a lot of times you're using a laptop to kind of kick back, lay in bed, and this thing, especially in tablet mode, is essentially a 15.6-inch S22. And so, yeah, this screen is absolutely beautiful at night. You do lose a lot of that glare that you may get during the day, and it just makes the screen pop that much more. One of the other questions that someone had asked earlier in one of my earlier videos on this thing was ghosting. I have not been able to find ghosting on this thing. I have got some halo effects. Even with that, I had to kind of push this thing pretty hard and get the blackest dark ground that I possibly could in a dark room, and then get just the cursor on, and you could get a halo effect. But even with the halo effect and kind of moving around back and forth quickly, it still wasn't, leaving after images behind. It just had the halo effect around the cursor. Not surprising. Something that, I don't know of really any other laptops that aren't doing that. I know gaming monitors now that are pushing into that with things like 240 hertz are able to refresh quickly enough to not have that happen as much, and their dimming zones are able to have hundreds to thousands to millions of dimming zones now, where you don't get the halo effect as much. On a screen like this, you are going to get halo because it is still using essentially LED backlighting to get the panel to work. So yeah, it is amazing, but if that's a big deal for you, then you're probably not looking at this laptop in the first place. We'll go ahead and jump over and take a look at the battery section next. Like I said, I had to do a lot of tweaking, and we'll see kind of what that tweaking ended up making as far as battery life. So I'll see you back here in a second. Okay, so we are going to go over the battery life of this thing now. I did not do full test on this thing right out of the box, but our kind of initial impressions from when we were running it, my wife was getting about 3 days of life out of it with kind of more minimal use. And the kind of closest approximation that we're getting to was that she had maybe about 18 hours of runtime on it, between word processing, looking up videos, scrolling Facebook, stuff like that, before she ended up recharging it. We didn't get a definitive number on that, but that was kind of our closest approximation. Once I went through and kind of re-optimized this thing, I took every battery protection mode off. I optimized this thing to optimize the CPU performance, to optimize the graphics, to get HDR enabled, the resolution, all of that stuff. I then took and put streaming video on this thing, unplugged it, and ran it straight through to see how long I could get this thing to last just doing video. And this thing ended up coming in within 15 seconds. There's a little bit of variance between hitting play, getting the timer to start, and then when it fully died. But within 15 seconds of 8 hours and 40 minutes. During that entire time, I had the display brightness maxed out, sharpness maxed out, HDR was on, the speakers were maxed out. This thing was sitting about 30 feet or so away from our Wi-Fi router, so it was streaming Wi-Fi or streaming video over Wi-Fi, and I got this thing going and just let it run. In my opinion, that's insanely respectable, considering what I did to this thing to get the performance up, and the fact that it was still able to do that. I don't think many people are going to be running video continuously, especially with all those settings maxed out for 8 hours and 40 minutes. You could watch Avengers Endgame 2.5, almost 3 times. So yeah, I think that's an absolutely great battery life. I know some other ones out there may be able to do that a little bit longer, but if you were going through and doing word processing with some kind of video here and there, or obviously, just kind of using it a little bit more sparingly, I have no doubt in my mind this thing is going to last you all day. You can get 10, 12 hours of runtime out of it when you're not pushing it. And if you're needing it to last a little bit longer, you just have to go into those preference settings, scale back the sharpness, scale back the brightness, scale back the audio a little bit, and this thing will last you all day. So hopefully that helps if you're someone who's interested in battery life. It was kind of fun doing that, and it was one of the more kind of scientific tests I've actually ran on a computer so far to make sure exactly how long this thing lasted for. We're going to go ahead and jump into how this thing fits into the Samsung environment. So we will see you here in a couple seconds. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and take a look at how the Samsung Galaxy Book 2 Pro 360 fits into the Samsung ecosystem, and how it works with that, and then kind of the versatility that ecosystem provides to this laptop, and then how that'll give you more versatility. This thing does come with the S Pen. As I pointed out in one of my other videos, that the S Pen that comes with the Galaxy Book is a little bit thicker, beefier of a pen. It actually feels like a pen than the S Pen that comes in the S22 Ultra. That thing is super thin. I really like the S Pen that comes with this one. I don't really like the S Pen that comes in the S22. I have bigger hands, and it's nice feeling that pen. I don't think that the S22 Ultra pen would necessarily scratch the screen, but while trying to use it, it feels like it may scratch the screen because it's so thin. It just feels like you're almost taking a toothpick to it, versus using the S Pen that comes with the Galaxy Book. It feels like a pen. It feels great. It writes smoothly. It works great. The issue that I have with it is there's no storage on here for the pen. As you can see, the pen's not sitting here with it because it's in the kind of travel bag that we have for this thing. And, a few times we've wanted to use it and go, oh, hey, where's the pen? Oh, it's not here. They have the magnet that it sticks to, but when you're in and out of backpacks, even if the magnet's good, if something else hits it, it's going to knock it off. You're moving around a bunch, you're carrying it, it can get knocked off fairly easily. It is kind of impressive how nice the magnet is, but it's still kind of a safety hazard that you're going to lose that pen just relying on that. So I know that they wanted to keep this thing as small as possible for just the compact form feature. But it would have been really, really nice if they would have found a way to get the S Pen integrated into it. Almost to the point that I would have rather had them put the pen from the S22 Ultra with this than the bigger pen, which I know sounds contradictory. I like the fatter pen better, but I'd rather just have the security of knowing that I can just push a button and slide the S Pen out of the side like you can on the S22 Ultra than having the bigger, nicer pen that you're going to lose. So that's just kind of my 2 cents on the S Pens. The Samsung Galaxy Buds, whatever they call those, the AirPod equivalents that Samsung puts out, pair with this thing seamlessly. They pair with the S22 seamlessly. My wife absolutely loves her Buds. Personally, I prefer the over-the-ear ones. That's just kind of my preference. But they pair with this thing, no issues. The sound quality on them is amazing, as you know, but that's more on kind of that front. This thing does put out pretty good signals, so you can kind of wander through the house and get a decent ways away and still keep them paired together. So, that's definitely a plus. And if you're going on the go, being able to take them on the go, have that wireless pairing with the integrated Bluetooth in this thing works great. This thing does do pretty good at finding hotspots while we're talking about the kind of wireless and on-the-go functionality. It can find wireless signals pretty well. Obviously, we try to stay away from using as many public networks as possible, but it does pair really good with the S22 Ultra, as I've said in the past, and they pair really well, and so far, they do pair better than this does with the iPhone. I kind of went over all that earlier in the video. So between this, the S Pens, the Galaxy Buds, and the watch, I almost forgot about that. The watch pairs really well with this and the phone, obviously, and that makes me think about the fact that one of the really cool things about this that no other laptop does is that, Android is a Google product, Windows is a Microsoft product. And so Android and Windows don't always work together the greatest, but you're able to actually use some of the Android apps off the phone and off the watch on the laptop. That's a really cool feature. And with that is that you can, start a project on one and access it to the other, but you can also start games on one and then access it to the other, or just like pretty much throw them back and forth. Pretty much like you're just using them as different monitors, and they're using completely different devices at that point. And it actually works fairly seamlessly. So that's definitely a cool feature. Samsung was able to bridge a gap that no one else has been able to bridge. So definitely a big kudos to Samsung for being the first to be able to get Android apps to work on a laptop and bridging that gap. And definitely big kudos to them for being able to develop the vast ecosystem that they've been able to develop. So with all of those things being said, is what ends up bringing me to my final conclusion that this is an absolutely amazing laptop. It can do just about anything that any kind of quote-unquote normal person would be able to put it through, and will do it very well. As far as portability goes, it's amazing. Battery life's amazing. Screen's amazing. I don't want to sound like too much of a Samsung fanboy here, but they did an absolutely amazing job with this laptop. I'd give it 5 stars. As we go forward, I'll kind of keep you guys up to date on if anything comes up. But at this point, if you're interested in a laptop, if you're interested in something that's going to be versatile, highly recommend this thing. Even if you're just looking at getting a new tablet, this thing is absolutely amazing as a tablet. The iPads start roughly around $1,200 for an iPad Pro. And if you're looking at essentially getting a Windows 15.6 inch tablet for $1,550, that's a really good buy. Plus, then you are getting the versatility of having a laptop. But for now, if there's anything that I missed or that you'd like me to cover, or any questions you may have, go ahead and leave them down in the comment section below. Let me know if you've picked up one of these laptops yet and how your experience has been going with it. And if you have any other questions, feel free to let me know down below. If you found this video helpful, informational, entertaining in the way, do me a favor, hit the like and subscribe buttons. I'd greatly appreciate it. It'll help me keep this channel growing and help me be able to bring more products moving forward to do reviews on and hopefully some more unboxings on. So I appreciate your time. I appreciate everything you guys do. Let's keep growing this community, and I'll see you next time. Thanks and have a great day. Bye.